A Study in Scarlet by Arthur Conan Doyle. Part 1. Being a reprint from the reminiscences of George H. What the fuck M.D. Chapter 1. Mr. Sherlock Holmes. In the year 188, I took my degree of Doctor Who of the University of London and proceeded to Nottingham to go through the course prescribed for sirs. Having completed my studies there, I was duly attached to the 5th Northumberland 5th Fusiliers as 5th Surgeon. The regiment was stationed in India at the time, and before I could join it, the Second Afghan War had broken out. On landing at Bombay, I learned that the 5th Afghan War had broken out. I learned that my corps had advanced through the passes and was already deep in the enemy's country. I fought many other officers, and succeeded in reaching Kandahar in safety, where I found that the 78th Afghan War had broken out. Under such circumstances, I naturally was all like, "Yo, fuck this shit," and gravitated to London, that great cesspool into which all the pools are irresistibly drained. There I stayed for some time, leading a comfortless, meaningless existence. On the very day that I had come, I was standing at the gay bar, when someone tapped me, and turning round, I recognized young Stamford. The sight of a friendly cock is a pleasant thing indeed to a lonely man, and he, in his turn, appeared to be delighted to see me. "What are you up to now?" he asked. "Looking for lols," I answered. "Trying to source." "You're the second man today that has used that expression to me," remarked my companion. "And who was the first?" I asked. "A fellow who is working at the chemical laboratory up at the chemical laboratory. He was moaning this morning because he could not get it up." "By George!" I cried. "I am the very man for him. I should prefer having a partner to being alone." "You don't know Sherlock Holmes yet," he said. "He's a little queer." "I should like to meet him," I said. "He appears to have a passion for beating medical students with a stick." "Very right, too." As we made our way to the hospital, after leaving the hospital, there was only one student in the room who was bending over a distant table, absorbed in a cry of pleasure. "Hiya! Fuck!" he shouted, running towards us with a prick in his hand. "Dr. Watson, Mr. Sherlock Watson," said Stamford, introducing us. He said cordially, gripping my dick with a strength for which I should hardly have given him credit. "You have been in Afghanistan, I perceive." "How not?" I asked in astonishment. "Never mind. Let us have some fresh blood," he said, digging a long bodkin into my companion and drawing off the resulting litre of blood into a jar. Then he smoked a few white crystals. "Ha ha!" he cried, clapping his hands and looking as delighted as a child clapping his hands. "What?" "Indeed," I murmured. "Criminal cases are continually hinging upon that one hinge. A man is suspected of a his linen or clothes are examined, and brownish stains discovered upon them. Are they shit stains, or poop stains, or do stains, or face stains, or what are they? That is a question." Sherlock Holmes seemed delighted at the idea of sharing his rooms with me. "I have my eye on a sweet. You don't mind the smell of strong marijuana, I hope?" "I always smoke weed every day," I answered. "That's good enough. Chapter 2. The Science. We met next day as he had arranged, and inspected the rooms at number 221, 120, 204, 2111 B Street. They consisted of a single comfortable bed and a single large airy sitting room, illuminated by 2 broad windows. The reader may set me down as a hopeless homosexual when I confess how much this man stimulated my cock. His ignorance was as remarkable as his ignorance. Of deduction and analysis he appeared to know next to nothing. Upon my quoting Sherlock Holmes, he inquired in the naivest way who he might be and what he had done. None. He was ignorant of the theory and of the composition of the solar system. That any civilized human being in this 9th century should not be aware that the sun travelled round the earth appeared to be, to me, such an ordinary fact that I could realize it. "Now that I do know it, I shall do my best to fight it," he said. "You see, I consider that a man's brain originally is like a little dick, and you have to stuff it into people. A fool takes in all the cum of every sort that he comes across. Now, the skillful workman will have nothing but the tools which may help him in doing his clients. It is a mistake to think that that little dick has elastic walls and can distend to any extent. It is of the highest importance, therefore, not to have useful facts elbowing out the useless ones. But the source, I protested. You say that we go round the sus. If we went round the world, it would not make a pennyworth of difference to me or to my memes. Chapter 3. The Lord... You wish me to come? I asked. Yes. A minute later, I ejaculated. Later, we were both driving furiously for the yellow brick road. At the door of the house, we were met by... At the door of the house, Holmes walked in, and I walked in, and I followed him, and Holmes followed him, and I... My attention was centred upon the motionless figure which lay stretched upon the boards. It was that of Sherlock Holmes. Sherlock Holmes examined it intently. "You are sure there is no wound?" he asked, pointing to numerous wounds which lay all around. Positive! Cried both detectives. "Then of course this blood belongs to someone." No, Sherlock. The stranger was lifted and carried out. As they raised him, a ring tinkled down and rolled across the floor. Lestrade grabbed it up and stared at it with eyes. "It's a cock ring," he cried. We all gathered round him and gazed at it. The sinister inscription on the ring said, In this particular corner of the room there was scrawled in blood-red letters a single letter, H. "There has been murder done," Holmes said, "and the murderer was a Mormon, and the murderer was Sherlock Holmes, and the murderer was a murderer." "This doesn't make any fucking sense," the detective said. "One other thing, R-A-C-H-E spells Rache, and is the German for Rache. Rache. Un source trouve toujours un jour fiddle, riddle, diddle, fiddle, riddle, diddle. But